Evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight at our formal meeting. Tonight we have actually officially two meetings, so we'll first be convening as the local building authority, and then we'll be moving into our Salt Lake City Council meeting. Before we do either of those things, I'll read some announcements. Welcome to today's Salt Lake City Council combined formal and local building authority meeting. We are happy to have you joining us today, both virtually and in person. If you're here on site with us, masking requirements have changed a bit. We are still balancing the safety of everyone who may join us in person and will continue to evolve as needed. For now, masks are no longer required in city facilities. However, anyone here in person to give public comment who prefers to wear a mask is of course welcome to do so. Feel free to remove your mask after your name has been called if you are going to address the council so that we can hear you clearly, if you're comfortable, of course. And now as we begin tonight's formal meeting, I would like to highlight that in addition to our business night at City Council, we will also have one business item in our role as the local building authority. I want to make that distinction for the public's understanding and to ensure that we have a clear record. As the city's elected officials, City Council members don't just serve on the City Council, but we also serve as the local building authority. Think of it as the council wearing two different hats. So we're going to begin with our local building authority hat on. And then we'll move on to the City Council business. So thanks for joining us. Our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, so as the local building authority, I'm going to look for a motion to approve the LBA consent agenda.
Moved. Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Wharton, a second from Councilmember Fowler. I'll roll call. Councilmember Fowler?
Yes.
Pui?
Yes.
Wharton?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Valdemoros?
Yes.
Petro? And I'm a yes. That passes 7-0. So I believe I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, thank you. And reconvene as the Salt Lake City Council.
Second.
That's a motion from Councilmember Pui and a second from Councilmember Wharton. Councilmember Wharton?
Yes.
Pui?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Petro?
Yes.
Valdemoros?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. Okay, so now we are convened as the Salt Lake City Council, and that brings us to our first item, which is item D2, where the council will be, we are approving work session meeting minutes of March 22nd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Wharton, a second from Councilmember Dugan. I'll roll call. Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Valdemoros?
Yes.
Petro?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Pui?
Yes.
Wharton?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. Next, we are joined by the youth city government. So this is always an exciting thing we get to participate in. The youth city government is here today to present the youth state of the city. So as always, we're excited to have the students who will be our future leaders of our city. We have 4 students here with us today participating in the youth state of the city address. And I understand that they're going to be presenting in the following order. First, Dia Omen, Kate Love, Lydia May, and Daffodil Buchert. I hope. Yeah. Thanks.
There's only, you have to share a microphone because there's only 3 microphones on the table, but you're smart. You can, just wanted to point that out. There's one that doesn't work.
And while they're getting ready, I'll say to Dia, thank you for being part of the city government, but also part of our redistricting commission. Yes. So thanks for all of your lots of service to the city. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dia Uman, and I live in Council District 4, and I'm a 10th grader at West High School, and it's a pleasure to be speaking with you guys today. I'd like to thank my fellow Youth City government members, Representative Angela Romero, and the interns that helped facilitate this program, Samantha Taversio Escalante and Juanita Escareño. This is my second year with Youth City government, and I've seen the program grow and shift as our world did around us as well. We tackled issues like education and social issues, but with a specific focus on youth voices and our ability to further change. Today's youth have a specific power that can't be stifled. It's a power to read right from wrong, and it's a power to view the world as if it's black and white, without the myriad of biases that affect the decisions made in the political sphere today. We see issues through a lens of different priorities. We're not fond of the rules set in place by the past, and we see no issue with taking a stand against the way things have been done. Our generation gathers on the steps of the Capitol to petition on behalf of education bills, and we stage protests about the increasing impacts climate change is having on our world. We walk out of class to protest the ignorance behind bills like HB 11 because our priority is the comfort of our peers, not the discomfort of adults. Youth City Government has given us the opportunity to explore the impacts of local and state government, but with a focus on the topics that mean most to us. From organizing a youth summit about consent, to educating our peers, to meeting with experts from around the state about systemic racism, the more we realize that we have a voice, the more change we know is possible. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Love. I'm a junior at East High School, and I live in Council District 5. During the past year in Youth City Government, there have been many times when I'm asked to think about what issues I'm most passionate about. I never have to think long about the answer. To me, climate change is the biggest threat facing our society today. My generation will suffer extreme weather conditions, including hotter temperatures, air pollution, and violent storms. These extreme conditions will make it harder to access the food, water, and will affect our immunity to disease. It will threaten our homes and create millions of climate refugees. In Utah, we often frame the climate crisis around air quality. It is something tangible that we can see and at times even taste. 75% of Utahns lose a year or more off their life due to air pollution. Climate change disproportionately affects minorities and communities of color. The most significant predictor of pollution exposure is race. These disparities continue making access to food and public transportation more challenging for our West Side residents. We've seen a complete failure by our national leaders to take meaningful action. As a 17-year-old, it often feels hopeless and scary. The only thing that gives me hope is the leadership local governments and the private sector can provide immediately. SLC has done a lot, including revising zoning codes to allow for more density. We know that creating housing closer to where we work is one of the best things we can do to reduce our carbon footprint. Salt Lake City has incentivized sustainable building practices and still could do more, and we could do more to incentivize better water conservation at the residential and commercial level. We urge you to take these steps now. We don't feel like there is time to wait. Salt Lake City has invested in public transit and initiatives like Mayor Mendenhall's free fare months teach residents to use public transit and make it accessible to everyone. But we need to invest more in public transportation, making it so convenient. It is the best option to move around, including greater frequency and coverage of the entire city. We need to continue to invest in bike lanes. I just returned from Amsterdam, where bikes had their own lane and took precedence over cars everywhere. We need to go even further with zoning practices along transit corridors, allowing for even greater height of buildings. We urge you to invest in this public infrastructure now. Thank you for caring about these issues that threaten the hope of my future and my generation. We know the solutions are not easy and the investment needed is large. In order to make meaningful change, it will take courage and foresight. We know we have to make personal and community sacrifices for my generation and future generations. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lydia May, and I live in Council District 3, and I'm a junior at West High School. I've lived in Utah almost my whole life, and my family has lived in Utah for 8 generations. I've always loved Salt Lake City. When I was younger, my favorite place in the world was Main Street. Not any building in particular, but the street and the people who walked it. Every day, I wake up, see the mountains, and feel so lucky to call Salt Lake City home. Salt Lake City is growing, and I've watched it grow up with me. On corners that I remember being empty lots, there are now apartment buildings. I'm excited to see Salt Lake City become more dynamic and to grow. I understand why so many people want to live here and make it home, There are so many people who love this city as much as I do. There are also negative sides to growth. I've watched as people were unable to find housing ended up on the streets. I've seen people priced out of their communities, forced to move, or scrimp and save just to remain with their families in the city that they love. With youth city government, I was given an opportunity to volunteer at the city council swearing-in ceremony. Hearing your stories and backgrounds was an amazing experience. Hearing your visions for a more sustainable, equitable city gave me hope. Hearing your stories of fighting for people whose voices are underrepresented in our city excited me. Population growth offers a unique opportunity for Salt Lake City to improve our economy, diversify experiences, and make our city more dynamic. But unless these benefits help all of us, especially those most marginalized in our community, the benefits will not outweigh the costs. I encourage you to keep in mind sustainability for our people and environment while making your decisions on the council. New housing should include housing that is affordable for low-income members of our community. Public transportation should attempt to serve everyone, and equity should be seen as a requirement, not as an afterthought. I'm excited to see how Salt Lake City evolves and changes. I'm excited to see how the next generation of Salt Lake City citizens, my peers, can help improve the city and help continue to make it livable for everyone. I'm excited to see how this council will set an example for development that is sustainable for the environment and the people who live here.
Good evening. My name is Daphne Buchert. I'm a senior at East High School, and I live in Council District 4. I have participated in the Youth City Government program for the past 2 years, and it has been an amazing and enlightening and illuminating experience. Though I have always been interested in politics, and so I've kept a casual eye on the world around me, and particularly politics themselves, Youth City Government has helped me participate and understand what is going around me in a more significant and productive way. Instead of a vague idea that affects me in detached ways, government has become more personal to me as I have met with representatives, youth council members, and members of various organizations within our communities. As it has become more personal to me, government has also become more interesting and important to me, and as it has become more personal. I closely followed the 2022 general legislative session this year, talking about different bills, meeting with representatives about bills, and even sitting on the floor as those bills were debated. This experience has been invaluable to me in building connections to my community and its leaders, as well as giving me an idea of what I want to do for the rest of my life. I have been able to see the direct processes of the government, and I've also seen the direct effects that the government has on the communities around me. For instance, as the Utah legislature brought up bills such as HB 234 and SB 11 that pushed for curriculum transparency and would require curriculum to be posted on Canvas for parents to review and approve, I heard from teachers about their frustrations and concerns with those bills. I have heard their firsthand accounts of how they felt about those bills and how they would affect them. Through my experiences with YCG, I realized how important and valuable it is to be civically engaged. Often, I have felt that the youth in my communities have a lot of talents and a lot of issues we want to address, and yet our efforts are not as impactful as we want them to be. My participation in the city government has given me a new perspective on how I can make an impact, and I feel more empowered to be a real proponent for the change I want to see. It is my hope that more young people can have similar experiences and come to similar conclusions that leave us wanting and ready to create more change through civic acts and participation in the government. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today, and thank you for the work you have been doing to keep Salt Lake community a thriving community. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. We also have with us Representative Angela Romero, Samantha Tiburcio Escalante, and Juanita Escareno, who work with as mentors for the Youth City Government. Do any of you want to say a few words? Well, thank you for your work with our youth, but most importantly, thank you to the four of you for coming and sharing those messages. I know they all resonated with me. A few things really hit kind of an emotional spot, so thank you so much for giving me hope that the future of our city is bright and strong.
Mr. Chair? may I?
Yes.
I just want to say this really is always my favorite council meeting when you guys get to come and present the state of the youth state of the city. And always incredibly, incredibly insightful. And I don't remember being that insightful when I was your age. So I really thank you for participating in this program. Thank you for your work and dedication outside of just these walls, but what you have done and the inspiration that you've created with your peers and the hard work that you've done up at the Capitol. I know there were a lot of bills that were very near and dear probably to all of your hearts. And there's a few lines in here that I'll probably steal for future speeches. So I'm just going to throw that out there now that they were so good that I was like, ooh, I'm keeping that one in my brain. So thank you, all four of you, for all of your work and for being here today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do we want to do a picture?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Can you say it into the microphone for some? Sorry.
When I first started this, I would edit some of their speeches, and as I've worked with all these young people and just their amazing, talented voices, I don't edit anything. So these are their words. I mean, they process this together. We talk about it, but they're speaking from the heart, and so it's just a beautiful thing to be able to mentor them. So thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, for the public, we're going to take a few pictures with the youth city government young leaders, and then we'll be right back. Thanks. take a minute. Thanks for letting us take a minute to take some pictures. I think we have a couple council members still talking to our youth city government, but I'll get started with our announcements. The next section of our agenda is Section E. Section E is public hearings. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling the names of those who wish to comment. We will call the names of people joining on WebEx and in person based on their order of registration or received comment cards. Once we open public comment, Taylor will announce 3 names at a time so that people can have some notice and be prepared to speak. When it's your turn to speak, Taylor will announce your name. For people in WebEx, she will unmute your line and you may begin. For people in person, please step up to the podium and make your comment into the microphone. Once you begin, please state your name and the 2-minute timer will start. At the 2-minute mark, staff will announce time. If you are unable to finish your comment, please send the rest of your comment via email, mail, or call our office. Our contact information is posted in the meeting room or in the WebEx chat. If you do not wish to speak, either message our staff to let them know, or when staff states your name, please let us know that you are just here to listen. So our first, was I supposed to read the rules of decorum? Okay, so as always, we have rules of decorum, which are basically, please be respectful of everybody, don't use profanity or obscenities, and if you need to do that, then you can reach out to us by email. But not in public, because that would be intimidating to others. Is that enough? Okay. Okay, so our first public hearing is item E1. E1 is regarding an ordinance regarding the public lands 20-year master plan called Reimagine Nature. Before we begin taking comments, I'll give a little bit of time to Allison Rowland, one of our council staff policy analysts, to give us a short introduction to this item. Allison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Reimagine Nature plan is the Salt Lake City Public Lands 20-year master plan, as you mentioned. It's a citywide long-range vision for transforming public lands. The goal is to create a sustainable system of parks, natural lands, urban forests, and special places like the Salt Lake City Cemetery or the Regional Athletic Complex. The council heard this during a work session on April 12th, sorry about that. And it is on your calendar for potential adoption on May 3rd. Thanks.
Thank you, Allison. And Taylor, will you please start with our first public comment?
Yep, so it looks like we have 2 people here to speak to this item. The first will be Polly Hart, followed by George Chapman. Polly, you are unmuted.
Thank you. My name is Holly Hart. As most of you know, I am the chair of the Peanut Board, the Parks Board, although I will be maxing out my 2nd term at the end of May. However, I speak to you today officially on behalf of the board to urge you to support and move forward with the 20-year plan. Our board voted unanimously, we voted enthusiastically, and we all urge you. We were really impressed with the work that Nancy Monteith and the park staff and the consultants did, and so I am just reiterating that we strongly urge you to support the plan. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, Polly. George?
George, you're unmuted.
Okay, I appreciate the effort, but I'm disappointed in the result. The fleet block should be a park since the surrounding community keeps getting ignored about open space. The community wants a full fleet block park. An 8-acre green loop is a water wasting plan that is effectively super park strips, and that 8 acres should be the fleet park, not just the proposed 25% of the block. On another item, car-free Sundays in Liberty Park is disrespectful towards families and the West Side residents who I see at Liberty Park regularly, since that is the closest city park to their neighborhoods with many amenities for families. And the plan should needs to focus on bathrooms and their security since homeless and drug addicts use them when open for shelter. The plan also needs more dog parks, preserving orchards and gardens instead of losing amazing gardens to redevelopment that this city encourages. No more investing in Pioneer Park. Other areas, admittedly less economically influential, deserve higher priority for parks in this city, and that is another way that the city screws the west side, in my opinion. I like expanding golf course services and trails and concessions, and the county's recent ordinance change allows it in Sugar House Park. I'm also against explore opportunities to trade underperforming green space. There should not be or is any underperforming open space unless Salt Lake City is being negligent. This plan should also plan for and install appropriate electrical outlets to allow food truck services to not run generators. And finally, I'm against looking for right-of-way eligible for lane reduction and against identifying opportunities to put streets and parking lots underground due to the cost. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, George. And I believe that was our
And
last
then,
comment.
Chair, we also had one more person on the phone line. If you could just give us 1 second to coordinate with them.
Of course. Thanks, Taylor.
Okay, and then our last commenter for this item is Jeanette Hemming. Jan, you are now unmuted.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I want to add my support to the new Reimagine Nature Master Plan and compliment those who prepared it. Among the proposals that I hope will receive priority attention are these: greater funding for public lands. More resources and staff are needed if this visionary plan is to succeed. Adopt progressive ideas like the pesticide-free parks program in Reno, which is mentioned in your plan. Please consider the Millerbird Refuge and Nature Park in Yellcrest as your first beta test of the Reno idea. We asked and PL accepted our request to pause the use of harmful chemicals, pesticides, and herbicides in Miller Park. Thank you. The Reno plan could be a better way forward. The original plan for the Foothills Trail system was misguided and mismanaged. I hope a new and better vision emerges. Lastly, many will be eager to dive into new projects outlined in the plan, but never abandon one of the plan's primary goals, which is stewardship, protecting and preserving what we already have. This is a big issue for us in Miller Park, as it is in other parks, trails, and urban lands. Please give public lands the budget it needs to take care of what is already here. If that doesn't happen, then we will continue to experience sporadic episodes of neglect, which we've witnessed in Miller Park. Thank you. Jan Hemming, Chair of the Yellcrest Neighborhood Council.
Thank you, Jan. Taylor, was that our last commenter?
Yes, that was the last one.
Okay, thank you, Council. I will look for a motion.
You gonna do it? You want me to do it? Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that the council adopt the ordinance adopting the Salt Lake City Reimagine Nature Master Plan.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler and a second from Councilmember Wharton. I will roll call Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Valdemoros?
Mr. Vice
Oh, sorry.
Chair.
Is there any discussion on this motion?
Yeah, there is a little bit of an item that wasn't included in this master plan and was a request of the constituency or of the East Central Community Council in District 4. Some of the islands that you see in the eastern part of District 4 have been historic since the 80s, and they have been called parkings, and they were intended to be part of the open space accessibility, especially for elderly people. And it was a last-minute request, and maybe Allison can help with this, why it wasn't involved here or added into this master plan to include those that they have several. We have several in District 4 that they are actually connecting green spaces.
And to my knowledge, it was included. They are
okay.
included, yes. And I'm trying to remember the exact chapter number. I'll get it to you. But yes, medians, parking strips, and yes, the islands are all included as part of the green space overall to be protected.
Oh, okay, perfect. Especially when I saw that 17% of our population will be over 65 years old in 2040. So we ought to take a look at that. I mean, they're very accessible, like right there in front of their houses. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Chair, I need to make an amendment to my motion, if I may. I would move, Mr. Chair, that we close the public hearing and then adopt the ordinance, adopting the Salt Lake City Reimagine Nature Master Plan, and yes.
Second.
Great. Yes, Cindy?
I'm sorry. Everyone might know why we're doing this differently, and I'm the only one that isn't clicking on it, but tonight was the public hearing, is that right?
Yes, it was just the public hearing.
It was just the public hearing. So typically, we would have it referred to the next meeting for action.
Scheduled for May 3rd.
Okay.
Oh, our
but
motion sheet is wrong.
unfortunately, our motion sheet says adopt or not adopt. So this motion sheet must be ahead of the...
It is.
Well,
I apologize for that.
We can change the motion completely
to
and
you
close
guys,
the public hearing and defer to a future council meeting.
Second.
We
And that will give us...
we technically can do either, right?
We can do either, yeah.
We could do the other one too, but.
Okay. All right, so the motion has been amended to not adopt today, but defer to a future council meeting for action. Is there any additional discussion on this? Okay, and the motion for the record was by Councilmember Fowler, and the second was by Councilmember Wharton, and I'll roll call Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Pui.
Yes.
Wharton.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion, and I'm a yes, that motion passes 7-0. Okay. Oh, we figured that one out, thanks. Let's see, where are we? We're on item E2. Item E2 is a resolution relating to redistricting of the city council boundaries. Before we begin taking comment, I'm going to turn the time over to Ben Ludke. Ben's with us virtually, another council staff policy analyst, to give us a short introduction to this. Ben?
Every 10 years, city council district boundaries are required to be adjusted based on the census results. Creating substantially equal populations between the districts helps ensure fair representation. The Resident Advisory Commission recommended 6 maps to the council for this redistricting effort. Those maps, links to the mapping tool, the census results, and more are all available on the council's redistricting webpage. That is tinyurl.com/SLC redistricting. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, Taylor, can you please introduce our commenters?
Yes, it looks like we have one person here for this item, and that is George Chapman. George, you're unmuted.
Wonderful. Well, I'm kind of disappointed because the download section of your city council website does not have the maps. It has an attachment, A, but it has no maps. So trying to refer people to the another website doesn't really encourage this. Some of the important issues you already know. Ballpark is one of the best organized community councils, so any idea that you should be pushing District 2 into Ballpark and separating or dividing Ballpark is really wrong. And this idea that the Jill Love cutout needs to stay, with all due respect to Jill Love, I love, but it needs to go away. And I also realize that there are 3 city council members that represent Fair Park area, and that's ridiculous too. So I encourage a little bit more reach out, because the maps aren't clear to people, and I'm looking at the maps, and the second map I'm looking at looks pretty okay, and it keeps Ballpark and it keeps District 4, and I-15 is a dividing line, which it makes sense. I recognize the problem with District 1 and 2, and the zigzag, and the fact that 3 community councils or city councils members represent the area around Fair Park and North Temple. So those are my comments, but essentially I think the city council needs better reach out. I don't see the community councils knowing about this. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, George. Taylor, was that our last commenter?
Yes, it was.
Okay, before I call for a motion, I just wanted to make a quick announcement. Now's the right time, right? Okay, so the chair and I have a suggestion for how we come up with this, but we want to see if the council also agrees to that. The idea is that now that we've heard public comment on the 6 maps that the commission presented, that all of us 7 council members can sort of order those, rank them in order of preference, send that to Ben, our staff member who's in charge of this item. Ben would then both post that publicly so everyone knows for transparency which maps we sort of chose as in order. And then if there's hopefully there will be a clear winner out of that process. So then come on May 3rd, which was our next meeting, we'll have this on a work session. And if there are any minor adjustments to that sort of map that, again, we're hoping one map will kind of rise to the top as the favorite map or the most sort of supported map by council members and their constituents, then on May 3rd in work session, we can discuss some minor changes to that map and then set that for adoption on May 10th. Does that sound okay to council members?
Yes.
Okay, great. In that case, I think we'll be looking for a motion to close the public hearing and...
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move that the council close the public hearing and refer the item to a future date for action.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan, a second from Councilmember Pui. Any discussion to that motion? Okay, Councilmember Wharton? Yes. Councilmember Pui?
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros?
Yes.
Councilmember Petro?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That motion passes 7-0. Okay, I think that is all of our public hearings. So we're moving on to section F of our agenda, which is potential action items. The first potential action item is item F1, and this is an ordinance relating to stealth tower amendments.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that the council defer action to a future council meeting. So, yes,
Yes.
that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Fowler. The motion is by Councilmember Fowler. The second is by Councilmember Pui. Any discussion to this motion? Okay, I will roll call Councilmember Fowler.
Yes.
Pui.
Yes.
Wharton.
Yes.
Petro.
Yes.
Valdemoros.
Yes.
Dugan.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that passes unanimously. Moving on to item F2. F2 is an ordinance that is a zoning map amendment at Western Gardens, which is 550 South and 600 East.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that the council defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Pui, and I'm going to say Councilmember Valdemoros with the second.
Oh, okay, fine.
Any discussion to this motion? Okay, Councilmember Petro,
Yes.
Valdemoros,
Yes.
Dugan,
Yes.
Wharton,
Yes.
Pui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler,
Yes.
and I am a yes. That passes unanimously. Item F3, am I right? Yeah. Item F3 is the one-year action plan for community development block grants and other federal grants for fiscal year 2022 to 23. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the council approve an appropriation resolution adopting the one-year action plan for fiscal year 2023 attached to the motion sheet as Exhibit A and allocate CDBG, ESG, home, and HAPWA funds.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan and a second by Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion to this motion?
That was Valdemoros.
Oh, Valdemoros, thank you. I was looking at Councilmember Valdemoros. I don't know why I said the wrong word.
Well,
Wrong
we
name.
look alike.
We look
It's
alike.
You're basically sisters. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros,
Yes.
Councilmember Petro,
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler,
Yes.
Councilmember Pui,
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton,
Yes.
and I am a yes. That passes unanimously. Okay, item F4. Item F4 is an ordinance regarding budget amendment number 4 for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 final budget of Salt Lake City only for the items shown on the motion sheet, which is contingent upon the following: the Community Recovery Committee process.
Second.
Items being adopted, just to further clarify, is E10, Community Grants Program, $4 million from ARPA, $2 million from businesses assistance grants, and $2 million for nonprofit assistance grants.
Second.
Okay. The motion is by Councilmember Wharton, and the second is by Councilmember Dugan. Any discussion to this motion? Councilmember Wharton,
Yes.
Councilmember Pui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fowler,
Yes.
Councilmember Petro,
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros,
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. We are now on section G, which is the comment section of the agenda. The first item is G1, questions to the mayor from the city council. However, the mayor and their staff were unfortunately not able to join us today. So if you have any comments to them, they said they would love to hear those via email. The next item is item G2, which is comments to the city council. This is the general comments portion of our agenda for comments about anything that the city council, related to city council, but not scheduled for a public hearing tonight. I went over the council rules of decorum earlier, but I did it kind of sloppily, so I'll read them again. Those rules will apply here as well. We are accepting your comments in person and through WebEx for those joining virtually, and for those whose only option to call in, staff is monitoring a separate telephone line. Isaac Canedo from our staff is helping to moderate the meeting and can message with attendees if you need to coordinate. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling the names of those who wish to comment based on the order of registration or received comment cards. Once we open public comment, Taylor will announce 3 names at a time so that people can have some notice and be prepared to speak. When it is your turn to speak, Taylor will announce your name. For people in WebEx, she will unmute your line and you may begin. For people in person, please step up to the podium to make your comment into the microphone. Once you begin, please state your name and the 2-minute timer will start. At the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphone will be muted. If you are unable to finish your comment, please send the rest of your comment via email, mail, or by calling our office. Our contact information is posted in the meeting room and in the WebEx chat. Taylor, can you please begin with our first general comment?
Council Chair, it looks like there are 5 people here for general comment. The first will be Keiko Jones, followed by Polly Hart, and then Hillary Jacobs. Keiko, you're now unmuted.
Hi, thanks. My name is Keiko, and I live in Guadalupe neighborhood. A friend of mine recently went on a bike ride along Jordan River Trail and noticed there were some people planting at Ogwai Garden, and also some tents were gathering. There was a survey last year about this garden, but I don't know what came of it. I spoke against it because it was started without anyone's consent or permission. What would my neighbors say or do if I planted some tomatoes in a little corner of their huge backyard without asking them? When there is a survey, and I don't mind attaching my name to it, it would be nice if the participants can be informed of the outcome or some kind of follow-up. I apologize if I'm missing something. In any case, I think it's wrong, especially after the survey, for the city to not take any action and continue to let whoever do whatever they want. After all, whatever happens to the garden doesn't directly affect me because I don't live near the garden. But if or when you vote on this, please listen to the residents near the garden and imagine your home next to it. And this is kind of personal, but George Chapman, I appreciate your presence at every council meeting, but I disagree about Fair Park being represented by three city council members. Fair Park, especially Guadalupe neighborhood, is unique. It's sort of like a bridge between east and west, and we have unique needs. So we don't fit in just one district. And I like to be represented, well, keep being represented by the three. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Holly Hart, followed by Hillary Jacobs, and then Daniel Schelling. Polly, you are unmuted.
Thank you. My name is Polly Hart. I am a very avid trail user in Salt Lake City, and I want to thank the Parks and Public Lands staff, particularly the Tylers, but also the mayor and the council for taking seriously the environmental concerns of many outdoor enthusiasts and avid trail users. I'm genuinely grateful for staff's reassessment of the process for planning and preserving our foothills. As Councilmember Wharton said this afternoon, a huge step has been taken toward restoring public trust in the city's intentions towards responsible planning for our futures. I am so optimistic about what will be happening in our foothills. I'm really excited, and I just want to thank you all for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Polly.
Next, we will hear from Hillary Jacobs, followed by Daniel Schelling, and then George Chapman. Hillary, you are now unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me now? Hi.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So I'm Hillary Jacobs, and greetings to you all on this chilly night. I want to thank you, the City Council, and the Mayor for pausing any further implementation of the Foothills Trails system since last September. And I would like to thank you, the Public Lands, for boldly reevaluating what happened leading up to the pause, recognizing why it was necessary, and then designing a new pathway forward that will incorporate solid scientific studies, real user data, time, reassessments, and then more time. We are but temporary stewards of these natural lands, yet our heavy tread can leave lasting catastrophic results. I'm feeling more trustful that a plan will protect the fragile, hence vulnerable foothill environments, and that can accommodate recreational needs that can be achieved. As you've discovered, time is a fundamental tool. It takes time to aggregate this plan. I want to thank the Council, the Mayor, and Public Lands for listening to a broader spectrum of stakeholders, thinking more regionally, and courageously adhering to your decision to create a noble legacy. The hills are alive with spring resiliency thanks to your active restraint. Thank you for demonstrating your appreciation of these precious natural lands that were almost taken for granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary.
And next we'll hear from Daniel Schelling, followed by George Chapman. Daniel, you're now unmuted.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Schelling, and I'm a 28-year resident of the Avenues. I'm also a frequent visitor to our beautiful Salt Lake City foothills. I was present virtually at today's City Council work session when Tyler Finaro and Tyler Murdoch of the Public Lands Department gave an update on the Foothills Trail System to the City Council. And I would like to let the Council know that I'm both pleased and supportive of the requests submitted to the City Council at the meeting, which included, among other things, first, a request to extend the pause on trail construction in the foothills so that the city has time to complete essential studies related to both foothills natural environments and its recreational use by Salt Lake City residents. Second, a request for funds to restore the Avenues Ridgeline Trail that was closed and trenched last year. And third, a request for funds to maintain existing legacy trails and recently constructed trails where necessary without the use of machinery. I'm also pleased with and fully supportive of Public Lands' request to expand the initial planned review of the Phase 1 trail construction to include a review and inventory of previously existing trails, a review of present and future trail needs, and inclusive community outreach. And I'm pleased and thankful that the City Council took the time to listen to the presentation and ask questions at today's work session. Finally, I want to thank all of you for the time and effort you have put into this and many other issues over the last year. And I particularly want to thank those City Council members that have taken extra time to visit the foothills and to study the multiple issues related to environmental protection and equitable recreational use of this precious yet fragile natural resource. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Daniel.
And now we will hear from George Chapman. George, you are unmuted.
Okay. Thank you, Council. I appreciate and thank you for posting the redistricting map priorities before our final vote. And I also want to thank you for this hybrid system you're continuing. I've had several friends who have been seriously impacted by COVID, and many of us are still concerned despite all of the vaccinations, boosters, but there is still a lack of masks on transit. Many of the rides, I hear coughing by riders without masks. So thank you for the system. I appreciate it. It ensures vigorous public feedback. And finally, you may already know I asked the city staff for an important data point missing from this afternoon's report about food sales tax revenue and trends. The trend is really, really important because I'm hearing anecdotal stories about how food sales have actually gone down because people are pinching their pennies. So I think that important information should be on your next report. I look forward to the data. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, George. Taylor, was that our final commenter?
Yep, that was our last commenter.
Okay, thank you to everyone from the public who came to make comments. Moving on in our agenda, the next section is H, which is new business, but there is no new business today. However, there are unfinished business items, so that moves us to section I. The first item is I-1, which is an ordinance regarding Community Recovery Committee and ARPA funds. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Yes.
Just for clarification, the version of the ordinance that you're voting on, and I just confirmed this with our city attorney, is the one that you requested that leaves the final decision to the city council. Okay?
As discussed in our previous work session. That's great.
I move that the council adopt an ordinance amending Salt Lake City Code Chapters 2.07 and 2.20 to establish the Community Grant Program and create the Community Recovery Committee.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Council Member Petro and a second from Council Member Dugan. Is there any discussion to this motion? Okay, I'll roll call. Council Member Petro?
Yes.
Paldemoros?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Wharton?
Yes.
Pui?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously, which takes us to item I-2. I-2 is an ordinance regarding an economic development revolving loan fund to the current exchange at 1159 South Richard Street.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I move that the council adopt the ordinance approving a $100,000 loan for the the current exchange from the Economic Development Loan Fund.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is by Councilmember Dewey. Any discussion to this motion? Okay, I'll roll call. Councilmember Fowler?
Yes.
Pui?
Yes.
Wharton?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Valdemoros?
Yes.
Petro?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That passes unanimously, which takes us to item I3. I3 is an ordinance regarding another economic development revolving loan fund. This one is for Mindful Living Wellness Center at 1592 South 11th East.
Mr. Chair, I move that the council adopt the ordinance approving the $100,000 loan for Mindful Living Wellness Center from Economic Development Loan Fund.
Second.
Great. I have a motion from Councilmember Pui, a second from Councilmember Valdemoros. Any discussion? Okay, I'll roll call. Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Valdemoros?
Yes.
Petro?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Pui?
Yes.
Wharton?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. And I, at one point in my life, had a therapist from Mindful Living Wellness Center. They did a great job, so. Let's see. That takes us to the final item on our agenda, which is J, the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? Okay, the motion is by Councilmember Fowler, the second by Councilmember Dugan. I'll roll call. Councilmember Fowler?
Yes.
Pui?
Yes.
Wharton?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yes.
Valdemoros?
Yes.
Petro?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously, and we are adjourned, right? Does anyone? Okay. Thank you. That was pretty quick. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the public.